Well, look, on football, we've touched on the Tyler Fletcher stuff. You're low him up at right since saying so much for Clarke, always being loyal to his player. He brings in a nobody that's played 17 minutes of football over a player of the season in Watt and ahead of Lennon and Barron. It's a disgrace. I mean, you guys sent in a video for Record Sport earlier on today and discussed this. It's been up on our socials. But what is your take on it? I mean, I was stunned by the news.
I'm struggling with it. Scotty's maybe got a different... And I can see Scotty's point. Because I must admit, that was the first time I've seen the boy. It's the first time any of us have seen the boy, for being honest about it. Apart from maybe his dad and his brother. He did look like a really elegant, big player. So I'm looking at him going, oh, by the way, he's got the physicality. As I said, I just the word that kept coming back to me was elegant. He looked elegant when he was on the ball. He looked classy. Now, I don't know. For me, that's not enough. 45 minutes, which is longer than he's played in his entire Manchester United career. 45 minutes in a Scotland shirt, 17 minutes in a Man United shirt. I'm struggling with the logic, and especially because Steve Clarke has gone out of his way over his 6 or 7 years in charge to build this club Scotland spirit where it feels as if these guys are all together. There's a reward for being loyal. There's a reward for turning up, for being part of the group. That's just been the Steve Clarke rule 101, and it's been thrown in a bin here to make way for Fletcher, which I find really, really interesting. What I would say is the three guys, Connor Barron, Lennon Miller, Andy Irvine, they're going to... They can't be feeling good about that. They would have been watching that game the weekend when Billy Gilmour goes down. They're thinking, I better go and pack the bag here. I might be getting a call. They did get a call, but they got a call to say, "Nah, you're all right. We don't need you. We've got another one here." That's if you're one of those three players, that's going to kill you a bit.
I just don't see the point in the standby list.
No, I know.
When Steve Clarke made a point when the squad was announced about how kind of gutted he was for Lennon Miller in particular. I mean, he was the guy that people were asking about because people like myself thought pretty certain that Lennon Miller would be included in the original squad. So it was a bit of a surprise when he wasn't. Steve Clarke made the point, he had a difficult conversation with him, but basically said to him, "Look, you're on the standby list." So to then, a week later, decide, you're going to just ignore that standby list to put in a 19-year-old kid who, by the way, as Jacko says, looks a top young player.
A prospect.
Hopefully going to be a top player. As Jacko says, mate, it's 45 minutes, with all due respect, against Curacao, 10-man Curacao at Hampden. I can only assume Tyler Fletcher has absolutely blown staff and the players away in the week at training. And by the way, if he has, fair play to the kid for getting that opportunity, going to Lesser Hampden for a week, thinking you're basically only there to train and make up the numbers, along with guys like Andrew Todd and Luke Graham, James Wilson. I mean, if the five guys who turned up to the squad late or were given extra time off, if they'd have been there, these boys wouldn't have even been in the bench for the Curacao game. They got on the bench. Steve Clarke kind of said, well, look, they're in the squad, so if you're in the squad, you've always got a chance of playing. Nobody really thought any of those boys were going to get minutes. Tyler Fletcher comes on, he gets a full half.
He was wearing McDermott's number, wasn't he?
Yeah, number 4. I mean, he does well, but honestly, I was staggered by the decision. As I say, nothing against Tyler Fletcher. I think he looks really good. For everything we hear is going to be a top player, you need to be in the fringes of the Man United team at that age. So hopefully he goes on to become a brilliant player for Scotland. But I just think if you're Lennon Miller, who's been part of the squads, the three of them have been part of the squads, but Lennon Miller is the one that just felt part of this group, and he just felt like a natural replacement. To me, anyway, felt like a natural replacement for Billy Gilmour. So I'll be fascinated when we go to see Steve Clarke tomorrow to actually dig a bit deeper.
Yeah, because he's not really been asked so many proper questions on this yet, and that is going to be obviously a major talking point tomorrow. But, you know, look, see if you think logically about this, because Steve Clarke thinks about everything he does logically, right? If you think logically about it, then what's he saying is here? I don't think... I think the logical thing to do, if you think, well, it doesn't matter who fills this jersey, because they're not going to get a look in, then you go and you say to Lennon Miller, Lennon, you're next up.
Well,
Because at least you give him his due, then at least you're giving him his place.
You decide you're just take a young
So is
player.
he looking at this boy going, he might be able to do something in this World Cup that Lennon Miller couldn't?
Possibly, but that's what I'm saying. If you decide, Dan, that if he's decided he's just wanting to take a young player for the kind of experience of a tournament,
You make it Lennon Miller.
you make it Lennon. It's as if Lennon Miller's like an experienced guy. Well, I'll leave him to take the young. Lennon Miller's a young boy. He's still learning the game, and he needs tournament experience. So
exactly.
it just doesn't add up in that sense.
See, I mean, if you're Lennon Miller and you've turned up for qualifiers to get here, you know, you've been part of the team that's you know, got to America. It must be such a slap in the face to be like, listen,
It is.
It's a slap. It's two slaps in the face.
Yeah.
It's two slaps in the face.
You didn't get in the squad in the first case, and then even though we put you on standby list, which tells you right away if we get any problems, we're coming straight to your door, then that doesn't happen either. So it's 2 or 3 slaps in the face actually. And I think, look, Lennon Miller's such a good kid and an honest young guy and a really immaculate professional, that he'll try his best to bounce quickly back from this and go on with it. But this is it's got to sting. It's got to sting. And by the way, we're saying about Lennon Miller, but you're also your Connor Barron, who actually had a very good season for Rangers. We'll be looking at it going, what? I've put in all the air miles here and try to be part of this and try to work my way into this squad. And some little kid that's wet behind the ears for Manchester United just comes in and takes my place in the plane. I mean, you have to remember, this is... The two can actually be conflated here. We've not went to a World Cup since 1998. This whole thing is historic. So to throw a cap at a boy that's only played 17 minutes for Manchester United's first team, it's a hell of a move. So it's going to be really interesting to see, one, how Steve Clarke kind of explains that one tomorrow when we see him. And it's going to be even more interesting then to see if it's justified over the course of this campaign. And maybe, as Scott has this inkling, that maybe Steve Clarke and his coaching staff are looking at this kid going, wow, he's ready. He's ready.
The other thing about Lennon Miller, Daniel, and it might be nothing, but the last camp in March, the 2 friendlies against Japan and Ivory Coast, I remember thinking at the end of that, strange that Lennon Miller didn't get a single minute of action at those 2 games. I mean, two friendly games. No, he's been playing. I'm not saying he's been playing every week for Udinese, but I think he's played like 900 minutes or something this season. Obviously, first season in Serie A. For these 2 warm-up games for the World Cup, strange. I think that I'd need to look back. I think there was only maybe 2, 3, maybe including a goalkeeper, players in that squad, that March squad, who didn't play a single minute in 2 friendlies.